Hello everyone, my name is Như Ý. The purpose of my presentation is to give you more information about Big Tech, which is the largest and most dominant company in the US information technology industry. The presentation should last around 15 minutes. If you have any questions, please ask me at the end of my talk. So, I have divided my presentation into two main parts. First of all, I will give you more information about Big Tech. What is Big Tech? The history of antitrust regulation in the United States, the vertical integration of supply chain, the dominance of Facebook, Google, and Amazon. Secondly, I will answer 4 case study questions. How does the first eras of antitrust thinking from 1890 to 1950s differ from the second era? What is a natural monopoly and how has the United States dealt with the natural monopolies? What are 3 possible solutions to the market dominance and anti-competitive behavior of Facebook, Google, and Amazon? How does the European model of antitrust differ from the American model? So, let's get started. Firstly, Big Tech is the largest and most dominant companies in the US information technology industry. That is Amazon, Google, and Facebook. Writers argue that Amazon, Google, and Facebook have built impregnable digital platforms. Writers claim that Big Tech will do anything to stifle competition. The strategy of Big Tech firms is to combine and attract huge users numbers by eliminating competitors. In the United States, writers say antitrust regulators and politicians don't get it. Secondly, I will tell you about history of antitrust regulations in the United States, beginning with the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 through the 1950s. Congress passed many pieces of legislation to restrain and, if necessary, break up the industrial giants of the 19th and 20th centuries. The classic antitrust case is Standard Oil Corporation's New Jersey, United States. In 1911, the Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil violates the Sherman Antitrust Act and chose to change structure of Standard Oil. Antitrust thinking changed markedly during the 1960s due to the changes in economic thinking and interpretations by courts, as well as changes in the economy and politics. After the 1960s, the major construct of classical antitrust thinking and legislations such as the predatory pricing, discriminatory pricing, and vertical integration were no longer viewed as problematic, but rather seen as advancing consumer interests by lowering prices. This new thinking was directly opposite of earlier antitrust thinkings and laws. Fast forward to the 21st century, Amazon is an example of firm that does not fit the rational model of 1960s antitrust thinking. Google and Facebook the same. Secondly, I move to the vertical integration of supply chain. I mentioned the classic antitrust case Standard Oil Corporation, New Jersey, United States, real fast, and John Rockefeller is the co-founder of the Standard Oil Trust. Over a period of 30 years, Trust has grown to control oil exploration, transportation such as pipelines and railroad, refining and distribution down to the retail level. This is called vertical integration, or supply chain control to the entire industry. One result of Standard Oil behavior was complete control over pricing oil products. and allowing it to track below cost in some markets to bring down competitors, while tracking monopoly premium in markets where it's not faced competition, so-called predatory or discriminatory pricing. In 1911, the Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil violates the Sherman Antitrust Act and chose to change the structure of Standard Oil by dividing it into 34 separate companies that hoped to compete with others and remain independent, as well as prohibits the company from engaging in other activities for the sole purpose of establishment a monopoly. Some of the companies have been linked together over the course of hundreds of years and today form a large part of ExxonMobil Corporation, the largest corporation in the United States. And now there are three dominant corporations in the United States called Big Tech, consisting of Facebook, Google, and Amazon. First of all, Facebook faced similar criticism for using a platform to destroy or buy competitors. For example, Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion in 2014. It also bought WhatsApp for $21.8 billion. Overall, Facebook has acquired about 90 different companies. Facebook created a copy service called Instagram Stories that copies the features and characteristics of Snapchat. Furthermore, Google is at a monopoly not simply based on a market size, but because of its horizontal integration behavior and its search engine favoritism for its own service. It eliminates its competitor for the purpose of maintaining search and advertising dominance. Google's horizontal strategy follows the big tech strategy. Buy up your competitors or degrade their assets to Google's search platform. Google bought YouTube in 2006 for $1.6 billion, making Google Video a no-brainer. In 2008, Google bought DoubleClick, one of the pioneers of online advertising networks, for $3.1 billion. Google also bought Waze in 2013 for $1 billion because it was a popular Google Map competitor due to its graphical mapping feature. Lastly, it is Amazon. Amazon is an example of a company that does not fit the rational model of antitrust thinking of 1960s. Amazon's strategy is focused on maximizing market share, not profit, and therefore it is willing to set retail prices of products at or below price over the long term, not just holiday sale. Amazon operates the largest online retail platform with over 500,000 products, ranging from shoes, brushes, batteries, books, to computers and wrenches. It is the largest third-party online marketplace platform in the United States with nearly 3 million third-party sellers. Example: Amazon used its platform power to remove books from publishers. High-trust after high-trust opposite approach. In other product lines, Amazon has developed its own household brands such as Amazon Basics, household goods, and electronics. Secondly, I will answer 4 case study questions. The first one. The first era of antitrust thinking was began with the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1980 through 1950s. According to this law, Congress passed many pieces of legislation to restrain and break up the big companies if needed. The purpose of this legislation is to create fair competition in the markets. It ensures that small companies and entrepreneurs could enter markets. Furthermore, this acts protect consumers and other smaller firms from unreasonably high prices. Legislators believe that the restriction of trade could create lower product quality or reduce production and supply. However, the antitrust thinking changed since 1960s because of change in the economic thinking in these periods. Concentration of economic power was not seen as anti-competitive, but it is considered to greater efficiency and lower price for customer and no restraint of trade or preventing other companies from entering a market. Now, I move to answer the second question. A natural monopoly is defined as a single company supplies the entire market with a particular good or service without any competition because of large barriers to entry. Natural monopolies create a barrier to enter a market simply by virtue of the investment size required for new entrants as well as all the nearly insurmountable advantages in efficiency, brand, and patents. For example, that some natural monopolies are electrical and gas utilities, telephone, and cable systems. The legislators have turned to regulation to control pricing and service level in the public interest and structural changes. For instance, in the 20th century, the federal government nationalized the entire telephone and telecommunication industry with creating a single national system operating by only one firm, AT&T. Furthermore, states enacted a regulation of the industry including prohibiting new firms from competing and introducing new standards and competing telephone lines to avoid duplication or higher prices. So now I will answer the third question. The first solution is to increase the review of proposed mergers with a view to protecting innovative small firms from the purchase if they result simply in the dominant firm gaining larger audiences and capturing more of the consumer time, denying this might share to competitors. For example, Facebook by WhatsApp, which was not in the social network market per se, could be prevented on the ground because the merger would simply increase market share for Facebook and hinder the ability of innovative startups to enter. The second solution is to split existing monopoly into standalone independent companies. For instance, Amazon could be split into 10 standalone companies such as retail company, a web service company, or a media company. Facebook could be split into social network, messaging, and photo sharing companies. Google could be split into a search, advertising network, a computer hardware company, and a video sharing company. The third solution is to follow the European example of dealing with the big tech mega firms. The European is pursuing a regulatory model for big tech firms in a number of areas such as antitrust, privacy, and taxation. For instance, the European Union fined the Google a record $5.1 billion in 2018 for forcing Samsung, Huawei, and other smartphone makers to prioritize Google Search, its Chrome browser, and other apps in return for allowing them to use the Android operating system. Lastly, my answer for the fourth question is that European model rejects the contemporary American notion that price and efficiency are the only criteria for assessing monopolistic behavior, and instead focus observe impact on market entry of innovative companies. The European model is broader view of antitrust similar to the previous periods of US antitrust law, considering the structure of markets and competition, not only consumer prices. And this is end up my presentation. Thank you for your listening.